Word Nerds, Kate here, and today I'm going to answer some common writer questions that I'm often asked. Whenever I introduce myself to someone new, I almost always start off with the fact that I'm a writer. This leads to some pretty interesting questions, but I've noticed that those questions tend to repeat themselves from person to person. So I've compiled a list of common questions that I am asked as a writer, and I thought I would go ahead and answer them for you today so you guys could know a little bit more about me. Are you writing a book? Yes, I'm writing a book, but please don't ever assume that just because I'm a writer means I'm a novelist. I know a lot of really fantastic writers who are not planning on writing a book anytime soon. I don't like when people assume that writer means novelist. Kind of a pet peeve of mine, I don't know. What's it about? I'm probably not gonna tell you. I'm kind of possessive about my writing. I don't know, it's one of those things where I am very insecure about my art when in its early stages especially. I don't like sharing too much about it just because it's very personal to me. I'll probably try and give you a brief overview of whatever it is I'm working on, but please don't expect a detailed summary and a plot outline. Can I read it? If you have to ask, then the answer is probably no. I don't like people to see what I've written until it's ready to be published for the most part. I do have some people that generally read my first drafts of things, but those are all very trusted friends, very skilled writers, and people who I have approached personally. Have you published anything? Yes, I have published quite a bit of work actually. Starting freshman year in college, some newspaper articles, some magazine articles. I've also written a short story that got published in Splickety magazine. You can find a link to that over in the My Work tab of my blog. And another thing about being published, I don't think you have to be published to call yourself a writer. One of my very best friends loves writing, and she's never gotten anything published, doesn't plan to anytime in the future, isn't pursuing a career in writing or publishing, but I still consider her a writer because she has stories and she tells them. Just because she doesn't share them with people other than me, I don't consider her any less of a writer. I think it's dangerous to tie up your identity as a writer in whether or not you've been published or how many times you've been published or how widely you've been published. If you have stories and you tell them, I consider you a writer. Simple as that. Oh my gosh, can you put me in your story? No, I'm not going to make you a character in my story. Technical difficulties. Yeah, but what are you gonna do with that? Do you have a backup plan? There are a lot of jobs that involve writing. I don't understand why people assume that you can't make a career out of it. Probably goes back to that whole assuming all writers are novelists thing. Yes, it is hard to make a career as a novelist, and very few people are able to do that and that only and be successful unless they're like, I don't know, Stephen King or Jerry Jenkins. But that's not necessarily what being a writer means. I mean, look at newspapers and magazines that come out daily or weekly or monthly. There are tons of writers involved in that, and there are people who write business plans and people who write advertisements and people who write plays and people who write movie scripts and TV shows, and there are so many different opportunities for writers in this world, and you don't even have to pursue a writing job if you like writing. I'm personally not. I'm hoping to become an editor of either a magazine or at a book publishing house because I love words and want to work with them, but I don't necessarily want to create them as my job. So no, I don't have a backup plan because I am very confident in what I'm going to be doing. What genre do you like to write in? I generally write fantasy. I just love being able to make up all the rules as I go. Where do you come up with your ideas? I get most of my ideas by playing what I call the what if game. One of the biggest things I've learned is that writers are observers. They notice everything, even if they don't realize it. They're very tuned into their surroundings. And so one of my favorite things to do, and something I'll do subconsciously, and sometimes it gets in the way of what I'm supposed to be doing, is what I call the what if game, where I will see a situation or I will hear a piece of dialogue and think, well, what if fill in the blank. What if this conversation was happening between two spies? Or what if this situation was happening using magic? Or what if that person didn't really believe what they were saying? Basically any sort of twist. That's actually how I got the idea for the first book manuscript that I finished. I was watching a movie version of Cinderella and I thought, well, what if she didn't want to be at the ball? There's a story. So hopefully this helped you understand me a little better and writers in general. I really love to talk about writing, but it's hard sometimes to talk about my personal writing. Well, I need to wrap this up because I am experiencing some technical difficulties. But if you're interested in more of my words, you can check out links below to my blog, Facebook page, and Twitter account. I would love to hear from you, so please comment below with more questions for me, answers to these questions, or experiences you've had with awkward questions. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you will see me next time, word nerds.